automatic entry into anywhere you go because you have a legitimate purpose for being there, and that's the most important part. It opens the door. It's called the door opener, and this is the opener of the way, and this is where Anubis in the Egyptian pantheon comes in, which is you must have the door open. If you have a job interview, it's easy to have a job interview once it's already set up, but getting it set up is a bitch, isn't it? Right? That's the hard part. Getting a job interview in the first place. The interview is a cinch once you're there. But getting the interview is hard. Isn't that true? Yeah. Hello? Yeah. In the employment field, that's what it is. Because I used to be an employment counselor. I know these things. I know how hard it is to set up an employment. I also used to sell business to business quite a bit. And one of the things that I used to do was a door opener, just like what he's talking about. It's a door opener. What I would do, if you don't mind, I'll tell you this. It's kind of, maybe you're interested. I would go to the place and I would get to the reception area, and the receptionist would say, you know, what are you here for? So I just came to find out what the manager's name is. It's all I need. I don't need anything else. Okay, fine. Let's get the name, or with the directors, whatever it is, or the marketing director, marketing manager, what it might be. So to get his name. Thanks so much. What is your name, please? And I read it. Then I'd call 2 days later, and then say, Marjorie, yes? This is EJ. We met at your office the other day there, and it just occurred to me. I just wondered something. It's kind of a silly thing, but I just got this new perfume, and I wondered if you would like a sample of it. I can drop it by, not for you to buy or anything like that. Just thought you might get a kick out of having some of this stuff. It's great stuff, and I think it's terrific. May I do that? Sure. So you drop by, you give the sample. He says, not for sale. I'm not asking you to buy anything. There's nothing commercial at all. I just thought of you when I saw this perfume. I thought of you, and I thought this would be great for you. So you do this about 5 or 6 times in a day. Then a week later, you call up and you say, Marjorie, this is EJ again. I need to talk to Charlie. Do me a favor, will you? Set up an appointment for me. I think I can see him. Yeah, Thursday's good for me. Anytime Thursday afternoon is good. Just set up a thing with Charlie. And how did you like the perfume? Oh, the perfume. Now that she knows who you are, she remembers you. Okay? That's all it is. Not for anything. It's not a bribe or anything like that. It's just to get her to remember you. You follow? And you are now friends because you've given her something and not asked for anything in return. So you're safe and you're trustworthy and a friend. That's actually not a good assessment. I mean, that's like saying that somebody who clicks friend is a friend. Hello? Is anybody fucking out there? Somebody clicking a friend is not your friend, folks. They're clicking friend. Because people do. Because they're expected to. It does not mean that actually you're a friend. Duh. Amazing. So, Paul, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, there are a couple other things.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. One thing that was really valuable for me over time is the realization that there were no obstacles. And,
wow.
and the reason there are no obstacles is because the flow was real. That flow was real. I had a real purpose for being there.
You have a mandate. It's a genuine mandate. You have a right to be there. You got a fucking badge.
Right, and there were no obstacles because that flow, if I got that flow going, it was just going to wash away all the obstacles. And so it was very valuable to realize there were no obstacles. And another point I wanted to make is, you mentioned friend. One of my favorite expressions was rejection is your friend. And one of the real successful things.
Why?
Well, the ordinary reaction would be you're rejected. Oh my God, I'm rejected. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it again. I want to go home. I'm done with this. That's the ordinary reaction. But if you realize that the simplicity is that you get enough rejections, all of a sudden the rejections are going to stop, and they would. It was very common. Everyone would say no in the morning, and then after a certain point, everyone would say yes. And I would go out, and another thing I would do is I'd go out and get my 20 rejections in real quick. I realized I had 20 rejections coming, and I was just going to get them out of the way real quick. And what would happen? Well, I don't know. It's hard for me to explain why, but if I got my 20 rejections in, I was up to speed. I was like, I was hot again.
I can tell you a fun story about this. A guy named Jerry who was one of my salespeople at Elvish Industries when we had a big chandelier company down on 6th Street in Los Angeles. And Jerry was a hot salesman, this guy, but he wore clothing like he looked like Soupy Sales. He did. He wore these checkerboard jackets, these jackets, plaid jackets. Loud tie. The tie would light up, and there would be a nude on the thing, and it would squirt water at you, and all this kind of. He had all these novelties on his body. You know what I mean? And he was brash and loud. And then there was this other guy, Herb, and Herb was quiet and calm and peaceful and conservative beyond belief. Brooks Brothers suit. Herb would sell over the month about $9,000 worth of goods, and which was enough at that time to sustain us. It was 1965, 66. That was pretty good money then for that kind of business, But consistently throughout the month, he would make a sale, a sale, a sale, a sale, a sale. Jerry, on the 28th of the month, would freak out. He'd run around. He'd find things like at the end of the day. So on the 30th or the 31st of the month, he would have a check together for $9,000, also, just the same as her. But he did it all in 2 days, 3 days at the most, and he had to do it last minute. He could not do it throughout the month. He tried to make sales. He couldn't make a sale until the 28th of the month. So getting all the rejections out of the way fast is a very, very good idea, and it's something that I hadn't heard of until Paul came up with this. Is get rid of the rejections quickly, get them out of the way. So you walk up to people who obviously have nothing to do, don't want your right.
Yes, that works. The 20 rejections, you could be very indiscriminate about who you approach.
Oh yeah. By the way, those who are of the dating age, I'm 73. I no longer date. And the only time I ever dated when I was 9 years old, and my friend who was a girl and I were made to go out on a date together at 9 years old. That's it. That's my dating whole thing. Yeah. So I don't know anything about this stuff at all. But from a social standpoint, think about how this works for you.
Yeah, it's a very good point if you want to go in that direction. It works just well. It works just great in that direction.
What I mean is that you get your 20 rejections out of the way. Go to a dance. Hey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you a weird story. A weird story. This is amazing. No, it's amazing. There was a bet was made between 20 people in Los Angeles and Hollywood. This guy said, I bet you if you walk up to a girl and you say honestly to her, I'd like to go to bed with you, or I'd like to have sex with you, whatever, would you like to have sex with, that you can, if you choose your person, if you choose the person you're talking to correctly, you'll never get a rejection as long as you're past your first rejections. And this is what a Jewish, and it's true, Jewish tradesman used to be. I don't know about now because I haven't been out there for 55, 60 years in this, but Jewish tradespeople have typically this idea of what's called the icebreaker, which is after that, when the person walks in the door, the first person who walks in the door in the morning, if you have to pay them to do it, you've got to make them walk out with some piece of goods. You've got to make a sale with that first person or you won't have a good day, period. So you have to bring yourself up to sales speed on the very first transaction.
Yes.
And you can lay that back by getting 20 bad transactions in a row, and then and believe it or not, it's weird, but it's true that those 20 rejections are karmic. They're not. They're mechanical. They're totally mechanical. They have nothing to do with you and the sale and this, that, and the other thing. So you might as well get those 20 rejections out of the way because your 21st will be a sale.
Yes, and
Same people. Crazy person walks up and says, "I'm nut." They'll still buy from you this 21st.
And by the time you've gotten the 20 rejections out of the way, all of a sudden, at a certain point, you get to the point where it doesn't have that big emotional impact. You don't care, And when you get to the point where people can feel, and they do feel it, they can feel that you don't care whether they're going to say no, then they'll say yes. if they can feel, you get insouciant, you get, happy-go-lucky. You don't really care. You're just kind of playful, and
part of that has to do with the fact that you've gone through those 20 rejections, and you finally get to the point where there's a change. You can actually feel it come over you, where you say, "I don't care."
Yeah, I don't care. It's fine. It's like, excuse me. There's a definite change, and it doesn't take long. You can get those 20 rejections out of the way real quick. And so that's one of the reasons I said rejection is your friend, because it really opens the door. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I would go out, what's the big obstacle? You're scared. You got these cards, you've got your amulets, you're going to go out and sell on the street. Well, you're scared. One of the things I've found very successful is if you just say, okay, I'm going to spend this afternoon selling these cards, just walk out with them. You don't even have to talk with anyone. Just walk out with them. You're all ready to go. Just walk around. It does achieve something. And then the other thing is, if you just keep...
You mean without selling or approaching anybody, just put them in your pocket and walk around.
Exactly.
And if you feel like it, engage, otherwise don't.
Exactly. And I've done it exactly that way. And what I find is eventually, I find some situation where it's particularly sweet and particularly nice and easy to engage, and I'll engage there. And that just opens the door. You could be, the most inept person in terms of delivering the line. If you went out, can I show you some art I'm selling, and just delivered that line, and if everyone said no to you for 6 months of doing that, you would still get a tremendous amount out of that. You would really get a lot, and you would get to the point where all of a sudden people would start saying yes. And it's not going to take 6 months. It'll probably take, a day at most if you're just giving this to people, because you're going to learn. You're going to learn how your tone of voice has to be. You're going to learn how people respond to this tone of voice, how they respond to that tone of voice.
One thing we can guarantee is it's not the cards.
Right.
If you don't sell, it isn't the cards that are doing that, because everybody else can sell them, you can't. That gives you feedback. That tells you something about yourself, that you're putting out putrid vibes. You're putting out bad vibes, just really rotten vibes. You're just not getting out there.
And you learn, it's right in your face. When people respond to you, that is not subtle. If they're scared by you, or if they're repelled by you, or you really get that right in your face. You feel that, and so you have a very strong motivation to find that little refinement that's going to help you get through that.
It sounds like making friends with denying force. I mean, that's what I keep hearing in what you're saying.
Making friends
with the denying force.
With the denying force. Well, that is, yes, you really are learning from mistakes. See, science is wrongly based right now. It's financially based. It's based on the laboratory. The laboratory is a lousy way to find out things. Inquiry is the best way, not laboratory. Anyway, so you have this idea about what it is to be out in public, what it is to be among people, what it is to go and what it is to have interactions and so forth. That's all going to change considerably from this one exercise, this little activity. But listen carefully to what he's saying, because put the cards in your pocket with the intention of selling them if you feel like it, and don't sell them if you don't. It's so important to be able to not sell the cards, to be free to not sell them. You're free to sell them, you're free to not sell them, you're free to keep them in your pocket, never show them to anybody. But if it should happen that you come across somebody, you say, you know what, I think I should show them to them. What's happening is you're starting to get discernment there. And the thing is, as you are sharpening these skills, it's a direct feedback to what's actually happening inside you, because Your heart is starting to melt, starting to change, starting to soften from selling greeting cards. How in the hell can that possibly be? The way it is because you're getting into rapport. You're getting into very close, mutually mutually resonant relationships. And these relationships, although they are only temporary, are very deep.
And you can get that same rapport in a very simple way. It's the same rapport by just saying hi to people. If you just, it's a wonderful exercise. Just say hi to people. People might look at you like you're a little, but just say hi. You're walking down the street, say hi. There's people, you're walking in the door, someone is walking out, just say hi.
On the street these days, no, don't do that. Don't do that. What you want to do is you want to check first. No, that's the way to do it. This is hooker's paradise. The street is hooker's. Let me tell you, this is hooker's paradise. Most of my students in the 1960s in Hollywood were hookers and pimps and drug dealers, and said they came to my classes because they wanted something more. They were not happy with what they had, and some of the hookers were the ones that were the most streetwise. They were amazingly streetwise, and I worked with a number of hookers in club in New York. When I had a club in New York, a lot of my clients were hookers, and I let them pick up their customers from my place. So I didn't kick them out. So we were friends. So I would take the receipts, stuff them in my pocket, and they'd walk me and my girlfriend Annette home from the shop back to our house, back to our apartment, to make sure we got back safely. Because they didn't want anything to happen to us, because we were their bread and butter. We kept the place open for them so they could score their johns. Could do their tricks. So one of the things you discover about that is streetwiseness. And one of the gals that used to walk us back, she'd say, look, you can see some street action 3 blocks down the street. 3 blocks down, you can see street action happening. They can spot it. They know street action. They know there's some bad street action down there, over that way. Ooh, there's some real shit happening over this way here. These guys over here are dealing. This guy over here is looking to bust somebody. This guy over here is a Fed. This guy over here is an They're so streetwise. They know all this stuff. And so, in a sense, you're getting that streetwise cheaply. You're not having to pay the price of being a prostitute out on the street. Yet you're getting the streetwise effort, the effect of it. And that is a tremendous effect, because if you can spot someone who is spiritual, if you can spot a spiritualized individual, then you yourself are gaining that spiritualized nature, because it takes one to know one. So the more you can spot, the higher. If you're spotting all lower assholes, I don't know, everybody I encounter is an asshole. Does that say anything to you? It's true. So it is a very, very powerful feedback tool that tells you whether you're on, off, or just plain nuts. And so you're going to get a lot of feedback. And people are not shy about, if you scare them, they'll run screaming from you. Seriously, they'll run away from you, literally run. Oh, gotta go. Sorry, I'm busy right now.
Right.
Well,
EJ made a good point. I never felt personally, I've never felt really in any danger at all. And I've been cities, all sorts of cities and lots of places. I mean, not in bad areas, but I've never felt in any danger. Part of that might be just me. So I don't want to have anyone put themselves in a position of danger. But part of it was the fact that I was very keen on not disturbing the space. I didn't want to make waves in the space. And so if I've done that exercise of saying
that doesn't mean you crawl.
No.
No, you got to explain, because they don't get what you mean.
Okay. Well, what I mean is,
You don't slink and stay in the shadows.
No.
So what do you do to?
Well, I'm just out there like I'm walking.
Yeah, but
I'm walking like I've got someplace to go. One of the things.
There you go. Say it again.
I'm walking like I've got someplace to go. I learned this in junior high school. We had this modular scheduling program, and I managed to work the system. But one of the things I discovered earlier is I could be walking through the halls in this junior high school at any time if I looked like I was going someplace. And if you look
like you're wandering, you're going to get stopped by security.
Right, exactly. That's true, and they'll see you. But you look like you're going someplace. You look like the other people. You blend in. And so it was almost a principle for me of invisibility. And there's another thing some people do, in that they try to stand out. I never used that. There may be a lot there I haven't explored, but I tried to stay invisible. And by that I meant I blended into what was going on. And you can feel if you're noticeable, if you're just kind of slinking along, or if you act like you're not going anywhere, you're obviously visible. I mean, you can feel that. Another exercise I did, which was very valuable, is I would just ask people the time. What time is it? And I would have a little clicker, and I would go out, and on a good day I'd ask 400 people what time it is. Maybe average one a minute, and like a busy area like Georgetown in Washington D.C. People all over the place, pretty high caliber area, and I would just say, "Excuse me, what time is it? Can you tell me what time it is?" I would just do this, and people will. I don't know, maybe things have changed in the last decade or two, but people will give you the time. And you learn all sorts about how your voice is interacting with them and the physicality of your interaction.
Well, you're not asking for anything unusual or unreasonable. You're asking them to tell you the time. And if they're at all civil, they will be glad to give you the time. They look at a watch, or look at their cell phone, or whatever it is they get the time from, and they'll say, "Oh, it's such and such a time," and you haven't asked anything unreasonable. It's not like they're not going to be outraged. How dare you ask me about the time? How dare you? Right? So it's a perfectly normal question, and if somebody refuses to give you the time, to tell you the time, that's okay. One person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people in a row, 5 people in a row, 6 people in a row, all of them say "fuck off." Right? So that tells you it's feedback. It tells you something. See, this guy I was in a bar. I don't go to bars. I don't ever go to bars, but I was actually not in the bar. I was standing outside the Owl Tavern in town. And this guy is approaching a blonde, very, very voluptuous blonde young lady sitting at the end of the bar. And he's kind of, that slithery, slidey kind of guy, you know what I mean? The kind of, you want to go, Italian shoes, come on, man, where are you at? What is it? Alligator belt, whoa, nice 70s hairstyle. Yeah, and he sidles up to her and he says to her, "Bond, James Bond." She turns and looks at him and says, "Off. Fuck off." So you don't want that kind of, can I show you some artwork I'd like to show you? Fuck off. That you might get, but can you tell me the time? Fuck off. Okay, I'll go to somebody else. Can you tell me the time? Fuck off. You tell me the time? Fuck off. You tell me the time? Fuck off. There must be something going on about the time. God knows it isn't me. First thing you want to do before anything primary is you want to make sure, did you bathe recently? I'm serious. You want to eliminate all of the obvious rejection points. Yeah. So you don't want to be actually oily as you're walking down the street. It's not actually greasy and oily. You want to have some idea what, so scrub down and get rid of at least the surface legs and all, kind of take down most of the grub. And get a nice presentation. Not great presentation. Don't overdress for the street. Just dress the way you normally would, right?
Sure, yeah.
And also, when you approach people, I would approach people that I would normally want to approach because I want to just say, I want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Right, those are the people.
When I was 3 years old, I want to tell you this because I want to help you with this. I was 3 years old, and I was on an airplane. I was on a DC-3. It was 1944, wartime. And people were getting they weren't eating. They had these, sandwiches and stuff on board, but they weren't eating. And I was very hungry. And I went around up and down and asked people if they had any extra food, And they looked at me like I was crazy because the plane was bumping up and down. Listen to the day, we didn't have pressurized cabins. The windows were open in the airplane. So you get some airflow. Yeah. And you could look down and count the toes on the animals and count the feet. And we went over one particular place. It was a ranch. We went over the ranch. And one of the people in the plane says, there's 4,974 head of cattle down there. And I said, how do you know that? He says, very simple. I counted the feet and I divided by 4. Yeah, well, we're that close to the ground. It's serious. It was really DC-3. Anyway, I would walk up to people, and at the age of 3, I'd walk up to somebody, an adult, and say, hi. Hi. What are you into? What do you do? What do you do for a living? Where do you come from? What was your mom like? What was your dad like? I said, are you a midget? Because they did this, seriously. Honest, they thought I was a midget. My grandmother made a tuxedo for me, and based on a top hat. My grandpa got a top hat off of a friend of ours, a friend of our family, who was a midget performer. And so he had a top hat. So he got the top hat. So my grandmother made the rest of it. She was a fabulous seamstress. So she made the tuxedo for me for a 3-year-old kid. You're going to outgrow this in 1 month, you realize, at 3 years old. So they dressed me in it, and they brought me to Manny Wolf's, which was a very, very famous restaurant just about half a block from our place. And Manny was a very good friend of the family. And we went in. It was a dinner house in New York. We went in there, and there was this is 1944, and the menu, the wine list, the menu was different, but the menu was the menu, but the wine list was contained in a leather binder. Have you ever seen that? It's handmade and all that kind of thing, hand-lettered, and they had like 3 of them total. You understand? Because the wine steward would come with the thing and present it. Do you know what I'm saying at all? Only one person presented the wine. Nobody, that's no third person, no second person. The wine steward. Yeah. You've never been in a decent restaurant? This is a restaurant where handy wipes are not offered at the end of the meal. You've never been in the, okay. So no shirt, no shoes, no service. This is applied to most of your family. Keeps most of my family out. So yeah, it's a very fancy place. So they bring the wine thing. So my mother had this very cockamamie wild idea. She asks Bruce, who was the maitre, she says, can I borrow, the wine steward. She says, Bruce, can I borrow the wine list? He says, I have an extra copy. I'll give it. So he gives her an extra copy of the wine list. She brings it home with us, just half a block away. And for a week, she coaches me on the wine list. You point here, and this is what you say. You point here. This, because I was at the verge of reading, but I wasn't reading. Cordon Bleu on the menu, and here I have this Chateau Rothschild. So she's coaching me on this, and she did speak French, very good French, and Parisian French. So she's teaching me how to say these things en français, and so I am ordering en français the thing. So we go in, and she slips the wine list back to Bruce. And Manny is there, and Manny jokingly says to me, would you like to choose a wine? And I said, of course, Manny, I would love to. And he brings Bruce over, and Bruce is in on the thing, right? But Manny is not. And so I look at the Chateau Rothschild. Can you tell me the vineyard? The exact, is this North Vineyard? No. Bon. Let's see. Je voudrais Beaujolais. Non. Cabernet Sauvignon. The 39, I think, would be nice. And so I go through this, and he is just, what? So he's got me going from table to table, ordering wine for the people, and they were convinced it was a midget. Because I had the tux on with the thing, and I looked like a midget. I mean, why would I be a kid in a tux ordering in French from a wine list? It was hysterically fun. What an evening. Yeah.